Apakah kecerdasan buatan atau artificial intelligence adalah kekuatan mengerikan yang mengancam pekerjaan dan privasi atau justru menjadi solusi revolusioner untuk tantangan dunia? Bloomberg Technozone Podcast bersama Pandu Sastrowardoyo dan Maria Sarjana.
Welcome to Technozone. I am Pandu Sastrowardoyo, your host today, and I've been involved in the world of AI for over 2 decades, starting with expert systems using Prolog. So this is actually a funny story. I graduated from college doing expert systems. This was back in 2008, and we actually built, like me and my professor, we built an expert systems for environmental impact assessment, and it got some traction in the academic world, but not quite in the business world. But that was, of course, during AI winter. And now, it's actually accelerating. Obviously, a lot of us have seen all the progresses in AI, generative AI, focusing on those. And a lot of people are starting to talk about something that's a bit more sci-fi, the singularity, the point at which artificial intelligence surpasses human intelligence. And this belief continues to grow. And we're here to actually discuss this more and basically get to the bottom of this, the challenges of the singularity when you're actually orientating it towards the audience of Bloomberg, B2B, and how IoT actually can be a catalyst for this major change. So with our guest today, let's explore the future of this incredible technology. So we have with us right now, Ray Frederick Jayadinata. He's a venture partner at Alpha JWC Ventures and the former CTO of Traveloka. Hello, Ray.
Hello. Hi. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you. And we also have Moshe Panjaitan. He's the Chief AI Strategist at AI Next Frontier.
Hi, Pandu. Good to be here.
Great. We also have our co-host, Maria Sarjana. Hi. All right. So let's start. And this is actually something let's start with just my background and versus what's happening now. Obviously, the winter and the summer are very different, right? So what are your views, both of your views, on how AI has evolved? From my days with the expert systems, obviously a lot of things have changed. So can you just tell us, let's start with Ray. What do you think? What are the differences? And
Sure.
Why is it so big right now?
Right. Yeah, so it's been very interesting. I think since expert system, I would divide the AI into two. Maybe one is the more traditional AI, and the other one is the generative AI, right? And I think the first big step from expert system to the traditional AI is that with expert system, you start with the rules. You start with the knowledge base from the experts. And with the traditional AI, you kind of flip the step because you don't start with the rules, but you start with the data. And
Right.
then you ask the AI to, okay, you figure out the rule now so that we can ask you more things and then you can tell us the output. And I think generative AI takes it a step further. So rather than just figuring out the rules, then start generating things based on the rules you figure out. And I think to your point, why it becomes so big, partly I think it's because of the transformer architecture,
Right.
which is at the heart of generative AI, right? And I think one big deal about the transformer architecture is that it allows you to throw a lot of compute into it,
Right.
and you get a lot of capabilities as well. So this is something that you don't get from the predecessor. I mean, if you talk about the predecessor for translation is RNN, right?
Yeah,
Which
sure.
is sequential. So there's a limit to how much you can throw hardware to it.
Yeah.
Whereas transformer allows you to just give it more compute, and it will become smarter.
Would you say this is brute forcing intelligence?
In a way,
right?
yes, yeah. Although, I mean, there are talks now about maybe the scaling law has kind of plateaued. Yeah, but for the past 2-3 years, I think what we've seen is that it continues to go up as well.
Can you explain to our audience what the scaling law is and how
Right.
has it plateaued?
Right,
What does it mean to our audience?
Sure, yeah. So, I mean, the idea of the scaling law is that the bigger the model you make it and the more compute you throw at it, the smarter it becomes, right? So if we look at GPT 3.5 to GPT-4, I think everyone who used it could feel the jump between the two. But what I mentioned earlier about the scaling law might be plateauing is that it sounds like from GPT-4 to GPT-5, maybe the jump is not as significant anymore. But of course, you saw what happened with O1 preview, right?
O1
Which
preview,
kind of kind of shift the compute again from training time to inference time.
Yeah.
The idea is that if you give the model more time to think, then it's equivalent to like scaling the model by orders of magnitude as well.
Right.
So there's
Right.
still ways to throw compute in a
Sort
way
of
to
self-reflect, right? Like
Yes,
the model
that's
sort
right.
of self-reflects and
That's right.
understands what it says.
Yeah.
Like, think it over, just like us, right? Thank you, Ray. Like, I'll get back to you. I want to hear from Moshe about this as well. What do you think? What are the changes? Obviously, like Ray's covered a lot, but what do you think also? Like, what's changed between then and now, since we've both been here for a while?
Yeah, to be completely honest, I think what really helped is just the applications of AI and everyday day-to-day use, but also the awareness of AI in the mainstream world now, such as ChatGPT has taken a life of its own, and it's able to at its release, it was able to get like how many million download in a single day?
It's the fastest one,
the
right? Like it's fastest
right.
adoption. Yeah.
So I think that plays a big part in creating awareness for the mainstream audience that the capabilities of AI, and I think as you mentioned previously, GPT 3.5 to 4 and to 5, I think it's all small iterations, but that can actually get greater leaps eventually. But these small incremental changes are what's important for the improvements for the AI to actually be more applicable to a lot of different use cases.
Why do you think like this has actually finally caught on? Like this has been like, it's a chatbot. Like when you think about it, it's a chatbot. What was the sort of like the turning point?
I think the technology has gotten a lot better just in terms of computing prowess. As you guys know, NVIDIA's stocks have gone up because everyone's been utilizing their GPUs to do all sorts of different AIs, right? Because there are specific, most AIs are specific, but there are also like AGI, the general artificial general intelligence, where it tries to utilize everything. But I think that plays a big part, right? How the technology has improved so much, and everything is a lot more efficient. Everything's so much faster and accessible. So I think that plays a big part as well.
Yeah. Let me bring Ray into this. Like this for both of you. Like that's actually one key thing, right? Like ChatGPT is something that's a productive application, but it is viral like a social media app. Why do you think that happened?
I think maybe let me take a business angle to this, right?
Yeah, so you're a VC. Yeah,
sure. But I mean, as you started with AI from the expert systems days, I think we all know that AI has existed a long time before Gen AI. But one thing about AI is that if you talk about the CEOs of large corporations, the senior leaders, right? It's kind of hard to see what is AI actually. I mean, AI has been applied in their products maybe.
It's already applied, yeah.
Exactly. But for the most part, they don't see it, right? So that's why when we talk about the pre-ChatGPT days, I think as a CTO, as a CIO, probably you don't get asked that often, okay, what is your AI strategy? Then the moment ChatGPT 3.5 came out, suddenly everybody is asking all CTOs in the world, right? What is your AI strategy? And I think it's great because it kind of opens doors. Suddenly AI becomes a conversation in the boardroom. And not only that, I think it opens doors for the traditional AI that up to that point was kind of still this invisible thing that is useful, but not that many people know about it.
It's brought out to the forefront.
Brought out to the forefront, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So Ray, because you already mentioned about the business with the AI nowadays, so is it possible that if AI OT maybe can use for defense mechanism in other countries, like in Indonesia, defense in Indonesia, like is that possible to combine with other technology like geospatial intelligence or something else? Because actually this is my thesis.
Yeah.
Oh, it's your thesis.
Yeah, actually this is my thesis. So
Right.
I kind of like imagine that how if AI combined with the to make something a difference in the business.
Right.
It's not just like selling ChatGPT or something like that,
Right.
but also selling about the defense security for country to country.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it is very, I mean, it's generally applicable, right? And to your question, AI has been applied to cybersecurity, for example. But if you talk about AI, I think one big thing that is hard for humans up to this point is that it's hard for humans to hold a lot of things in our head and think and draw red threads and connect things everywhere, right?
Yeah.
It's our working memory. It's a biological limitation. If you talk about AI, it has a large context window and it keeps getting larger and larger. Simply, it means that it can hold more things in its memory. So I think it goes beyond just the defense or anything, but it's in a situation where you have a lot of data, and up to this point, there's no human who has a working memory large enough to see the red threads connecting those data. Now you have. And I think that goes beyond just defense.
You know what? Somehow I imagine that we can have some like a combined technology like AI, IoT, and also geo in together to make a human geography. So we can produce something different about the technology to provide data, but it's not just a data, it's really human geography data. So we can understand, profiling you like this.
Instantaneously profiling you based on the data, like based on where you are.
That's what do you think? It's just too far or something else?
Right. Well, no, I don't think it's too far, but at the same time, then you need to consider a lot more things about that, right? The privacy regulations, your privacy, your security as well. Because if you think about it, as of today, your location is already known from your mobile phones. Your data is probably everywhere already, right? So I almost think that AI is almost like an orthogonal thing to it, because it can be applied generally, but the thing about your data, your privacy, how much data a government is allowed to collect from its citizen, that's like a different conversation, but that needs to be taken care of with or without AI.
Okay, it's interesting.
I would like to jump in, and this is actually related to these two things. First of all, privacy, obviously. I guess there's a lot of concerns now about privacy.
Yeah, it's about the ethic.
It's about the ethic, right? It's we're talking about these companies actually becoming the next generation of big tech companies, and obviously we have always had concerns about big tech, and I think they're valid concerns when it concerns to privacy. So what do you think? You mentioned basically our context window is much smaller than these AIs. They're going to become our exocortex, and do we really want an exocortex that's owned by megacorp? What do you think? I mean,
a great question, right? I think that points to a term that maybe we've been hearing more and more recently. It's called the sovereign AI. Right? Sovereign AI. Because then it goes back to your point about the defense, the ketahanan of a country, right?
Yes.
I mean, when AI has become powerful enough that it actually can make an impact at the national defense level, do you want it to be owned by a corporation in another country that you don't know about, right?
Right now it's happening. It's happening because we are in Indonesia, and we just have a geospatial data or something else, a big BEG. So, but in other country, we have many things like geospatial intelligence agency, and then now in Indonesia we also interviewing with the BVM, Bumi Varta technology that's provide the geo in also.
Martin,
so that's a private thing. It's not.
I think this is interesting. I would like also to bring Moshe into this, and obviously, Moshe, one of the things that you have expertise in is IoT, and edge computing is one of them. Edge AI is going to be huge, right? That's coming, right? It's already here in most cases.
I completely agree. It's already here. It's already on my phone, actually.
Okay, all right. Cool.
I'm using a Google Pixel. It's known one of the smarter phones, the smarter AI, phone with the smarter AIs.
Better than Siri.
I think so for now. But Apple, I think, recently invested in OpenAI, so I think it's gonna be better with GPT with Siri. But anyway, Google has, I think, localized Google Translate right? And as well as speech to text. And
It's actually,
and it's all in their chip, right? SoC. And I feel like it's becoming more and more prevalent that these AI are coming into closer to us and faster, and without the need of internet access, it's able to actually provide sufficient responses and answers to what we're asking it.
Is that a threat to OpenAI? What do you
I'm
think?
sorry?
Is that a threat to OpenAI? Like, are these sovereign AIs basically a threat to these?
I don't think, at least I don't see it as a threat. I think there's a lot. It's still a blue ocean. I still consider it a blue ocean because I think we've only scratched the surface of what AI is capable of, and there's a lot more different applications that can utilize AI to a higher degree. So I don't think it's I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so.
You mentioned AGI earlier, right? Like, and you go just for the audience. Like, can you explain more about what AGI is and in this particular context, like, would everyone be able to own their own AGIs? Is that something that you foresee in the future? AGI, what's AGI first? Let's explain what's AGI first.
I think, just to put it simply, AGI, or artificial general intelligence, is basically all this dystopian things that we've seen in sci-fi movies, right? Where
can be utopian.
It could be utopian, could be, but in a lot of movies are selling it as dystopian, like the iRobots, the Terminators, and the thing with AGI, it's basically an artificial intelligence that you can ask it anything and it can answer it can answer any questions that you give it, basically.
General knowledge. Right?
General knowledge, which is quite difficult to achieve because in terms of business, in a business sense, and how we utilize it, AI is very useful and productive when it specifically focuses on a certain task, right? Like it's one task or a few tasks, and it learns all. It's being fed all these different data for this one task, and which makes it which makes them able to give a response to us that we might not have thought of before in that particular task. But with artificial general intelligence, when the AI is expected to be able to answer all the questions that you're asking it and not specific, I think there's a lot of technical challenges that it's so. So for ChatGPT, right? For example, ChatGPT, I think it's trying to achieve some sort of AGI, right?
I think that's actually part of their mission statement.
That is their mission statement.
Yeah. It's not just that.
Exactly. But as amazing as GPT-4 and GPT-4o is now, they're still making a lot of simple mistakes. Like you can ask it some simple questions,
still happen,
and can hallucinate because it's given, I think, the parameters to answer as humanly as possible, which makes it sound very, it makes it sound promising and it sounds correct. But a lot of the things, if you fact check some of the things, it's actually incorrect.
It's sort of an artifact of its LHF, right? Like basically because it's it's trying to be as human as possible, but it's not really it's emulating as well some of the things that are not actually its answers. What I really want to go to that actually, first of all, the dangers of this. This is something that's actually dominating very quickly, adopted very quickly, and what are its dangers? Let's start with that. Moshe first, and then back to Ray.
Sure. I think one of the biggest dangers of relying too much on AGI, especially currently at its primitive state, is
the proto-AGI, right?
Yeah. Proto-AGI is that people are becoming more and more dependent, and we can see this in our education system as well. Students are using it to do their homework, to do their essays, and I think having it as a place for all the answer, where when it's not yet able to give a exact correct answer for every single thing, that's I feel like that's a danger because you're being way too dependent on this thing that you assume are giving the right answers most of the times, but for now, as much as I see it, I think it's giving a C answer for a lot of the things that we ask it, but
yes,
it could
Probably,
but
when you have expertise in like a particular topic, you see it like right, and you ask it something. And then,
exactly. But in the future also, like when AGI becomes more prevalent, and like you were asking, could AGI be personal or would it be general? I don't know. I don't think I can predict if it's ever going to become more personalized. I think there could be separation between like personalized AGI and just overall AGI, but with the notion that the personalized AGI will have less data, will have less
the
computation.
privacy becomes
which
very
means-
important as well. Like you know,
Exactly.
like doing local RAG instead of like sending everything there.
Exactly,
like, stuff
exactly.
like that. So I'd like to bring it back to Ray. Like we did mention privacy, and we did mention about like like countries need to have their own basically infrastructure. Now, you as a VC, like what kind of projects do you invest in that are trying to build this? Like not just being I'm sorry, API wrappers for just Quad and ChatGPT, right? Like what kind of projects are you investing in these days?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think there are a few categories in AI that are interesting, right? I mean, first of all, is basically the race to become the biggest and the smartest.
Sure.
I think if one is in that game, unless you are one of these big tech corporations, or unless if you're the US or China, then it might not make that much sense to play in that game, because I mean, OpenAI is probably gonna get there first, and it's not like they stop developing their things, right? They continue as well, and then the layer below that would be those companies, those startups that are creating their own model, much smaller, but relatively better for a very narrow application.
So back to expert systems.
Well,
I mean, a narrow domain, right?
Yeah,
That's
a
sort of
narrow
like-
domain, but then it has to be way cheaper, way smaller as well.
It
Right?
is,
It needs to have a distinct characteristic that makes it special in a way. And then the third one is what you call the GPT wrappers, right?
Sure.
I think not all GPT wrappers are the same. So there are some there are some companies that does this essentially. Enterprise search, right? What is that? That's ragging your
That's
data,
right,
and then feeding to the
Retrieval
LLM.
augmented generation
Correct.
audience,
Yes.
So it's it basically uses data, and you can explain it. Sorry.
So I mean, making your data more amenable to the LLM to consume, right? To spit out something useful, and one would argue that you don't even have your own model. What you're doing is chunking data. Where is your moat?
Precisely.
But look at that. I mean, there's a company that's valued at $2 billion out of it, right? And turns out that yes, there are actually quite a number of useful use cases in the enterprise where you don't need to create the brain. You just need to create, maybe, if I stretch the analogy, better set of eyes and ears, so to speak, to feed to the brain.
Okay. So building that should be the focus of like
building that should be the focus, and
startup.
And also I think to Moshe's point about the accuracy, right? I think if we talk about POC, anybody can come up with a quick POC these days very quickly. Hitting 70-80% easy. But if you talk about enterprise, about B2B, you can't go with 80%. You need to go with 98%, right? And that's a pretty big
high bar.
It's a pretty high bar. And not only that, once you assume that you manage to do that, there's another thing, which is ML ops. So ML ops is essentially, okay, you have all these model. How do you arrange everything so that it can be trained easily, effectively with the data, and how do you deploy it to production? How do you keep the learning process to continue, right? That's another thing which is like a pretty rare skill as well. So are there spaces for business, for a company to create value in those? I think there is.
That's awesome. Okay. And I think that's a huge opportunity in terms of actually building these things. Like a lot of people get rich not from, mining for gold, but for selling the shovels, right? Like, and a lot of these shovels are still being built, like tools to make tools. You have anything to add?
Actually, going on Ray's point, I completely agree. I think most companies and or people don't need to focus too much on the brain, and I think we need to focus more on the eyes and the ears, and that's what we, like my company does. Like Miyota, we're an IoT end-to-end service company, and IoT is basically the eyes and ears to capture the real data in order for the brain to process. And exactly to Ray's point as well, in an industry standard, I think 80% is not good enough, right? It needs to be 95%, 99%. And IoT is a really great place to start because all the data are real data, right? It's real, concrete data that you're translating it, and then you're analyzing it with the AI's brain and feeding us the analytics and evaluations upon it. So
you do a lot of predictive maintenance, right, with IoT?
We do a lot of predictive maintenance, say for energy efficiency, right?
Sure.
Just for an example, like one of our products is energy efficiency for the ACs, like in a lot of offices or ATMs that utilize a lot of they utilize AC, but they don't really track their occupancy. So you can actually save cost and knowing and being able to predict how often do people actually come to these offices or to these ATMs, and we're able to predict. We're also able to predict the maintenance, predictive maintenance by analyzing the delta, the change between the temperature of the AC and the temperature of the room, and by determining when the delta is becoming smaller and smaller, it usually from the data that we had previously, it means that it needs to be serviced soon. But like how it works right now is that people are doing it on a monthly basis or on a 3-month basis to maintain their ACs, whereas you can actually just listen to the data that and the thing that AI provided for them, and they can save costs on that as well. So that's one of the things that we do. Yeah.
I'm thinking like IoT is everywhere. Obviously, like networks are very complex because like there's so much IoT devices now, and AI can also help with that type of complexity, right? Like basically from going up to the network layer and just like basically helping with the entire thing as well.
Yeah. They can definitely do that. Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that in the AI field that sort of like a lot of people don't realize that AI is everywhere already. Like this is like, this right now ChatGPT is sort of like the sexy new kid on the block, but that's sort of like just one part. And I appreciate that you're actually just also talking about this. And do you think like we need to focus on like more elements of AI, not just generative AI? And will that going back to AGI, is this the only approach? Is transformer architecture the only approach to go towards AGI? This is a question for both of you. Let's start with you.
Yeah, maybe Ray can better answer that question. But what I wanted to add to that was to the point where a lot of the algorithms that utilizes AI are open source nowadays. So you can just use that and improve on it and utilize the more accurate ones and modify it however you deem fit, and focus more on, again, like the eyes and the ears and being able to enhance the data. The data, right? Because when you have better data, then you get better results. Yeah.
There are some people who say, by the way, that like even though it's open source, like the weights are open source, but like the training pipeline isn't always open source. So what do you say to that? I'm sorry, incidental question.
I'm not sure. Do you have anything to say?
Sure. Well, maybe I'll start with
the first question.
The first question, right? So, I mean,
is that the strategy? Is that transformers? Is it the holy grail?
I mean, I think the answer is no. I mean, one big great thing about transformer is that in a way it's like a general compute, right? You can throw things at it and if you train it well enough, it spits out something sensible. But then I think there are many cases where traditional AI is still a better solution, literally. For example, if we talk about the application of AI in manufacturing, right? Sometimes each manufacturer pipeline is different, but the more real time the manufacturer pipeline is, the more you want to have a very quick feedback, right? And LLM in general is too slow for that. So what you do, you go to the edge and you deploy a CNN model, right? Because it is fast enough, and then you can use the LLM for the orchestration, for the interpretation of the model, etc. And I think there are many other cases where it's a combination of the two, traditional and Gen AI that makes more sense. The second part of your question is whether transformer is the architecture for AGI, right? Yeah, I don't think that's the case. And the reason for that is because I think this goes to your question about AGI as well. I think AGI is more than just passing the Turing test, right?
No, because it's not just that. We passed it, I think.
Right, we passed it already. Right.
Bostrom says that the definition needs to be changed.
Right. But I think that's kind of moving the goalpost a bit, right?
A bit.
As per the original, we've passed it already. But then is it AGI? I think all of us can agree that it's no. I mean, to me, it is an AGI if you can start innovating new concept. You can start to create new branches of science, right? And I think this is where the main problem of the transformer architecture is, because it is a probability predictive machine, and basically it spits out something that it's seen a lot. By definition, when you innovate something, it's something that nobody has ever seen before. So how would it be able to extrapolate or to create something that new out of the blue, right? So
I think Moshe has something to add.
Actually, I do have a question on that. I was trying to figure out if, do you define AGI as an AI having intuition? Or how do you define intuition? And see, from my perspective, intuition is, I guess, it's from the things that you've learned, right? Which is what AI does. It's things that they learn. But then the difference is humans have intuition and AIs don't, because we have emotional differences. We have emotions and we have subjective experiences, right? But can't we just replicate those emotional states and subjective experiences? I'm actually asking you this question because I'm not sure.
That's interesting. That's my question.
What differentiates that from an intuition?
Okay, I would. Yeah. Okay. Can I ask you all how much time have you spent with ChatGPT, for example? Probably a lot, right?
Every day.
And Claude.
Right. And I'm guessing that for just simple questions, for simple drafts, they're okay. But the moment you want to create something original, something insightful, it falls flat, right? And I think this is exactly an illustration to my point. Namely that when you want to create something original, something that maybe it doesn't see a lot on the internet because it needs to be insightful, right? It falls flat. It doesn't help you that much.
My experience, it depends. I think for some things like when we're coding, I'm pair coding with my GPT.
Right.
It actually worked quite well in terms of finding creative ways to do things.
Right. Can we talk a bit more about this?
Oh, sure.
So for the coding, right? Okay. So here's the other. My problem with LLM for coding. So LLM is trained on the existing code bases. Right?
Obviously from GitHub and all the other stuff.
Yeah. So and the progress of computer science, the progress of the programming field is sometimes pushed forward by the invention of new programming paradigm, new programming language. But when all the engineers are so used to code with LLM, that spits out maybe C, Java, Python, right?
True.
Meaning that suddenly the bar becomes much higher for a new language to even get adopted. And you've seen this with new framework as well, by the way. When the new framework is released these days, they include together the thing that you feed to the LLM, so the LLM can answer you questions about the new framework, because it doesn't exist before.
Right. It sort of like tries to emulate the new framework with the old one, though. Like that's sort of like what it does, right?
But that's why sometimes when you create a framework that's really new, you try to make it like, hey, Claude, this is what my new framework is about, so that if someone is trying to learn it, then the LM can answer questions about it.
Right.
So,
wouldn't that be an argument for us to, like, when we create a new framework, we train these AIs, like, and not just Claude, like, I'll put it in the code base, like, wouldn't that be an argument for that?
Exactly. But that, I think you'd agree with me that just shift the bar higher, right? Because it's not enough that you create a framework which is hard enough. You need to train it on the AI so that the AI is aware of your framework, so it might get adopted.
Well, it's better than having everything become a blog.
Fair enough. Yeah.
And actually, to that point as well, having you said that it depends I read an article a few months ago that someone won like an art competition,
Wait, yeah.
right? Utilizing AI.
Oh,
And,
the tennis one, right?
I
think it's
don't
an art
remember. It was like
competition.
it's like an orchestra with a moon, or something to that notion. And like I play music myself, and I've heard a lot of AI music, and it's not great yet, right?
yet.
I think because music, in most cases, it takes form, right? It has a proper form. So when you go against these forms, I mean, they're like abstract music, they're like jazz and like the most more extreme freeform jazz. But in a general sense, like music.
You
has
look like a
has
jazz
form.
man, I have to say.
That's
a compliment.
I listened to it a little bit, but anyway. Like music has a proper form in most cases, right? Like a 4/4, 4/2, 3/3, and with art, I think it's more abstract and it's more free. It's more free form in a general sense. Like it's more acceptable for paintings and illustrations to be more free form, right? And to that effect, I think like the fact that it was able to win a competition, like it was able to win it was under like it was under controversy because it was questioning whether or not it's valid.
I mean, the ownership, right? Like, who created this?
Exactly. Like
intellectual property laws need to be rewritten.
Yeah. But like to that effect, right? Maybe they're utilizing DALL-E, but still, you gotta input the proper prompts for it to spit out a proper image that you want it of, right? And even then, it might not be entirely correct. But to that notion, like with art, the previous artists, they learn from the things that they had in the past, and then they create some new art. Yeah. And this generative AI, in terms of illustrations, right? Aren't they able to do similar things as well? Even though they're not exactly accurate. Like maybe they create humans with 6 fingers. I hear it's really hard for AI to replicate fingers.
I think it's been fixed in some of the models.
This is so dangerous with this.
Yeah. But
Flux is
but what are your thoughts on like the creative, more creative usage of
just for the audience? We're actually just talking here about like how we are actually talking about AI creativity, and is AI actually creative? And that's sort of like the big question right now, right? Yeah. Is it really creative, or is it just like a machine that repeats?
I'm sorry to cut you off a little bit. Because I'd like to bring up a point here, like. Even with the things that we are exposed to in our day-to-day and on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, well, whatever we use, even that's already tailored by AI. Like, I mean, even those experiences themselves, shape how we think and shape how we see the world and how we and how
that's our own cognitive
and we think
pipeline.
Like we think we have free will, we have a free mind that we can think, but do we actually? I mean, that's a question that I ask all the time because I'm only here because I was raised the way I was. I was listening to the things that I listened to. I learned the things that I learned, but do I actually have a holistic comprehension of how the world is and how the world works? And I think that's the same thing with AI, right? Like if AI, if you feed this AI the things that I experienced, I think it might be able to predict the things that I would want to do. But if you feed it with your experiences, then wouldn't it be able to predict what you would want to do? And in that sense, like, then wouldn't intuition be built in through better AI eventually?
I think, in my opinion, and this is an opinion of the host, it doesn't matter. I think it's because we don't actually know how humans think and how we are creative. Are we actually do we think like this? Is it something completely different? Is there a magical way for us to think like this? The brain is obviously a lot less lossy than Transformers, right? Like, I mean, the brain just needs like a bottle of water filled with glucose every day, basically, to fuel it. And we think just like Transformers, but like Transformers needs whole data centers, right? So that part is, at least in terms of mechanistically, that is something that's quite different. But I mean. The question becomes very philosophical, right? Like, is this actually creation? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot more down to earth than that. So what I mean by that is this. I mean, let me ask you this, right? When you see a picture and you know it's generated by AI, don't you suddenly value it a lot less?
Yeah.
You do,
Ooh.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good question. Yeah.
Think about this in a WhatsApp group. Next time somebody in the WhatsApp group say, "Oh, I just asked ChatGPT and this is what it told me," you just stop reading at that time, right?
Yeah, I don't like it.
Exactly,
Actually,
exactly.
Well,
Right. Okay. So my point is that, especially if we talk about art, I think a human appreciation of art is not only about the aesthetic of the art itself, but it's the human component
That's
of
a
it.
soul.
It's a soul. Yeah,
It's a soul. Well,
yeah, whatever you call it, right? The soul. From my end, I would think it's like
Authenticity.
the skill, the training that the artist went through it, which you appreciate, because I think human appreciates that.
Yeah.
And I think that visceral
enough.
feeling of you when you say, it's generative AI, nothing.
That's
right?
gonna.
I think
Yeah. Because for me, it's painful because I grew up in a arts family.
Right.
So for me it's hurt to see something like this. They make but in a certain point maybe people talk about AI do creative things. It's good, but for me, if we talk about the art, we talk about the soul.
Yeah.
We talk about the feel. We
Right.
talk about the intuition.
Right.
So I think AI with the art, I don't think so. It's good for a human being. I think that's so dangerous also.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think you guys brought up a good point, right? Like it's the process, the story behind the music, the story behind the art is what actually what's relatable for the audiences to accept it, right?
Sure.
Which I completely understand. And as someone who plays music too, like I feel like it's a big part. But time and time again, I always think to myself, like, are my creative woes, are they actually my own? Like, is it actually my own, or is it because of all the things that I've been exposed to? Why do I question that? Like, okay, if you want to question, if you want to say that, if it's created by Gen AI, then you value it less. Actually, in my case, I don't value it any less. I just value it just a bit differently.
This is interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
because
Okay.
the fact that these engineers are able to create this
We
AI
value it
engine,
differently.
and
Okay.
they're able to spit out these images so much easier than what it would take an artist to make. I think that has value on its own, but in a different way.
Yeah.
Not maybe maybe
Okay.
it sounds more commercialized.
I would like to jump in here. So basically, it's valued more because like there's actually servers behind it, and there's engineers actually making this, and this is actually valuable as well. But now, like one of the things that at least OpenAI is doing and is stating, Sam Altman has himself said it, is that what he wants to do, what they want to do, is create AGI that creates ASI. Right? So that's sort of like brings it back, right? Like, okay, so will we still value something that is not even created by human hands? Will we still value AI or any cognitive system that is created by other cognitive systems?
This is so
Okay, this is getting to be like really wild.
I'm sorry for asking the philosophical question. I was a philosophy major, so it's
You are okay.
it's inherent in me.
But really? Didn't realize.
It's not as simple as that.
This is something. Okay, I'm going to bring it back to our audience. Like, obviously, business, right? But here's the thing, though. Like, this is going to have a huge effect. Like AGI, well, AI, proto AGI is already having a huge effect on like business. But like, this is going to be a revolution if it's AGI creating ASI, and that's actually the singularity, which I started with. What will business look like? What do you guys think?
I think I'll start with if we look at all the other innovations that are world transforming, right? One thing that is always true is that they tend to be two opposing camps, and they have diametrically opposite opinions, and they are really smart people on both sides.
Right.
And I think that tells us that we as human beings are really bad at extrapolating things, especially when it's already like multi-factor at the society level things, right? So I think maybe a bit of an escape answer from your question is I don't know, but I think if we bring it down to earth and we bring it down closer to the present, then I think look, sometimes we ask the question, okay, are we ready for AI? I don't think that's the question. I think the question is, AI will be here. How will you adapt to it? Because again, I see AI as different from all the other innovations before, like the internet, like the railway or something, in the sense that the time for adoption and adaptation is extremely compressed,
Right.
because they are already all the infrastructure, right? So today, us in Indonesia,
The knee of the singularity is very quick.
exactly, yeah, and also not only that, but the way to use AI, to work with AI, is actually not that easy. In a way, with the internet last time, it's easy, right? You start up the modem, it dials up, and then you're connected to the internet. Voila. Electricity, you flip the button and you get light or something. With AI, you actually need to kind of learn how to work with it, how to be more effective with it, right?
Right.
So I think, to your question, well, I don't know what corporations will look like in the era of ASI. I think I know that we need to embrace it, and we need to see, okay, how can we adapt, not only 10, 15 years in the future, but next year, the year after that. Yeah.
Right. I agree. What do you think, Moshe?
I think I'm gonna cop out as well and say I don't know, but yeah, I think the important thing to note is that it is moving very quickly, right? And the adaptations of it we're seeing it being implemented in all sorts of industries and all sorts of applications. So I think just being aware of where it can lead and being in my case, having a company that's adaptive and understanding that the potential benefits that it can bring. And again, it's not just because it's AI doesn't mean it's end all be all, right? Like AI is basically right now it's
at least for now.
Yeah, at least for now. Like it's like utilizing it's time series, it's statistical, it's probability. So it's just giving us a better like a better consistency in the things that we wanna see and what we wanna predict. So I feel like we still have a long way, but I think we should start understanding the importance of it and the effect that it might have in a greater scale. And I think in the education industry should start focusing more towards these sectors, because
this is important. This is important. Yes.
Exactly. Like before, if we're looking at before the assembly line was a thing, right? In manufacturing plants, it was not machines; it was just people. Making a car, the assembly line is like this group of people are just putting on the screws, and they're putting on the windows, and now it's improved to the point where there are less people, and manufacturing is at a level where it's I think it's highly optimized and can even go greater. And I think that similar shift we will see, because assembly line is very monotonous work, right? So the monotonous jobs that we have today, I think will be replaced quite fast and quite easily.
That raises ethical questions as well, right?
That's for me it's a bit dangerous, because I'm Christian, so that's kind of a little bit what is called it. I do not agree with it.
The ethical issues.
Yes, because it's where's the ethic about this kind of thing? So maybe you can answer it. Because we
I guess more towards
Indonesia.
people losing jobs, and is everyone gonna have to do universal basic income, or is it the productivity of society going up? So.
I think one of the parallel universe I think I can see as being having a universal basic income and everyone basically just chilling, right? And then the artificial intelligence doing everything, and
post-human societies.
Yeah, post-human, like in the Matrix, where everyone's just bored, and then they have their own lives there instead, and the machines actually just take care of everything.
It's not about talking about the economic things, but we're talking about if there is chance AI to become a singularity.
Right. So if it's to the singularity level, what's going to happen?
Yes, what can happen? And then also, where's the ethic? Because it's mostly kind of like a AI become a god, like that.
Yeah.
Do you guys read
Do
you guys read Eliezer Yudkowsky? Obviously, that's what this discussion is headed towards, right?
Sure.
How do we build AI that is aligned towards human ethics?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's actually a very hard question.
Sure. Sure.
You raised a really hard question.
Especially in Indonesia, I think,
Yeah.
because we grew in a community that respect religion.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
kind of more difficult with it.
I think I have a place here because of my major as a philosophy major, and I study morals and ethics. Right. I think what I have to say about that is morals and ethics are also it's a society-made thing. I think, right? Like we have ethics and morals because we grew up in a society that has these ethics and morals. But if we grow up in a place with different ethics and morals, then we would have different ethics and morals.
Okay.
So I guess going back to the question, if we want to align it with human morals and ethics, aren't we able to, I guess, not necessarily just code it, but aren't we able to set it in a way that we set like certain parameters that these ethical points are like the priorities for this AI to consider before outputting?
I would say
certain
with an
things.
expert system that's possible. With transformer architecture, that's a bit
Yeah.
more hard, right? Like
That's
sort of
true.
like,
Yeah.
what do you think, Ray?
Sure. Well, I'm not worried about it. I mean,
You're not.
the reason for that is there are people way smarter than me who's working on this, right?
That's actually a good point,
Ilya
yeah.
from
Ilya.
ex of OpenAI.
Yeah.
He's building the safe AI,
Safe
right?
AI.
And
Safe
also,
ASI, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right, exactly, yeah. And also, look, I mean, I think this goes back to your point about the national defense, because you raise an excellent point that if we are going to increasingly rely on LLM to create school problems, exercise problems, right, for the education, do we want an LLM that's aligned with Indonesian values or Western liberal
Yeah.
values,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So hence the need for an LLM that we can call ours, so to speak. But to your point about the ethics, the guardrails, I think that is an engineering problem. I'm not talking about whether
Yeah,
ethics
guardrails,
comes
yeah.
from religion or something. I'm just saying that it can be done through engineering. And
Okay.
why I can say that, because I've seen it done, right? Maybe not from an LLM that's created in the US, but an LLM that's created in another country, which has a lot more restrictive cultural guardrails, for example.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So okay. That's a good point actually. So I cannot debate it.
I think this is very interesting, and I'd like to continue the conversation. We do have only 10 minutes left. We are actually due for closing statements. So you raised Indonesia, like in this conversation. I think this is very important. We're Bloomberg in Indonesia. We really want the Indonesian audience to understand, first of all, where as a viewer should they start if they want to actually implement AI in their business, if they want to learn, they want to enter basically the AI field as well. Where would they start? And in terms of Indonesia, what's in it for Indonesia as a country? So, as a person, as a country. So, closing statements. Let's start with Ray.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think there are several levels to this, right? If you don't have that much exposure to AI before, then my suggestion would be just to start. And by the way, I've seen this over and over again, even in business contexts, right?
Sure.
A colleague showing another colleague that, oh, this can be done with ChatGPT in 5 minutes. Oh, I didn't know it could do that, right? So another person, and it's that kind of awareness that I think everybody must build as like a baseline level.
Yeah.
And then secondly, if you're in the business of more aligned with tech, more aligned with AI, I think it makes sense to kind of get yourself more well versed in that. But I would like what I said earlier. You'd probably focus not on so much of the big brain, biggest and smartest, but on the what was your point earlier? I mean the supporting components,
The
right?
supporting components, right? Right. The eyes and ears, and you're focusing on getting data in.
Correct. Yeah, because actually there's a lot of value that you could create out of it, even if you don't create yourself the biggest and the baddest LLM out there. And then lastly, about the society, I think it's a much harder problem. But I think I would go back to what I mentioned earlier, right? That it's not about whether we are ready or we are not ready. We know it is coming. Then what are we going to do about it? And which might involve, for example, creating a sovereign AI, or at least an LLM that is like aligned to Pancasila, right? And Indonesian values.
Very cool.
Yeah. So
Moshe.
Yeah, I think from me, I think similar to what Ray has mentioned as well. I think the awareness is one of the more important things, because even for us, we provide our clients with predictive maintenance or scheduling, but because they're not used to it yet, and they're not aware, they still utilize the manual tools to do their businesses. So I think awareness and adaptations, and especially in the industries, is very important. And just if being able to solve the simpler questions, maybe, or the simpler tasks with just simple AI, and understanding its benefits first of all, and then from there growing our understanding and awareness of what it can lead to. I think that's a great place to start for everyone, and that's speaking for individuals and also businesses. And on the last part, again, I agree. I think it's not a matter of if it will come. It's a matter of when it will come, right? And I think just being ready and adaptive to the situation. So learning more, being exposed to the different implementation solutions, and just reading up more on the topic, and listening to Bloomberg Tech Knows More.
Thank you.
You know,
Thank
could
you.
maybe elevate your knowledge.
Yeah. So I think, yes, we as a human, we need to agile to this what coming next about the in the terms of AI and also singularity as well. So yeah, I agree with this.
All right. So with that, we've gone through a really wild show today, and this is actually very interesting. We did talk about how AI has changed from my days doing expert systems, and now with generative AI transforming everything, and how it's going to be transforming even more things in the future. We here at Bloomberg, we think that this has been a very interesting conversation, and I'd like to thank our guests, and we would like to continue the conversation in our social media. Connect with us on Bloomberg Technozone.